Okay, this is part 2, lesson 4.5, part 2, and we only got 3 more examples to do, so let's do it. I'm looking at this polynomial here. This is still in your notes packet, and I noticed that there's not really anything that I can factor here. I could try doing grouping, but that's not going to really work for me because when I do that, I end up not getting the same factors here, not the same. So I should go back to my calculator and just enter this polynomial. So let's go and do that. Y equals, okay, I got x cubed minus 5x squared, okay, minus 2x. I'm just saying it out loud so I actually have it, and please make sure your calculator is out for this. Let's go ahead and do, go to the table first. Let's see if we can find a, oh my gosh, done. Easy peasy. I love problems like these because they make it easy for me. Remember, I'm looking for anywhere there's a y value of 0. It looks like that happens for -2, for 3, and for 4, and I'm done. Nothing else to do. That's it. These are, again, where y equals. How many solutions am I supposed to have? I'm supposed to have 3 because of that 3 right there. Done. Next. Okay, this problem. This problem is going to be a little bit tougher. So there's something called an irrational conjugates, and I'm going to show you what that means. It says write a polynomial f of at least 1 degree that has rational coefficients, a leading coefficient of 1 in the zeros 3 and 2 plus root 5. Okay, so here's what this basically comes down to. There's some polynomial function. Lead coefficient is 1, which means basically don't worry about it. Don't worry about this part. Don't worry. Just be happy. Be happy. The rational coefficients, that's just technical jargon. Ignore that. The zeros is 3. Do not ignore this part because that means that x equals 3. Or in factor form, we have an x minus 3. Now we have this part, 2 plus root 5. Ugh. So that means x is equal to 2 plus root 5. Or it means that it's x minus 2 minus root 5. Here's the thing. Anytime we have a root, and let's just write this down here in a nice pretty color. Anytime that we have a root that intercept that involves a root, and there is another root hidden. That root is called the conjugate. There you go. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that there is another root here that we need to address. One is x equals 2 plus root 5. The other is going to be x is equal to 2 minus root 5. So take a look at this. X equals 2 plus root 5 and 2 minus root 5. Same numbers. The only difference is the sign. And again, this is called the conjugate. Pretty popular in second year of algebra courses. I'm just waiting for the computer to catch up to me here. Come on, computer, don't let me down. It's 11:30 at night. Let's go. Somebody wants to go to sleep. Please. Again, it's exactly what it says up here. A conjugate is going to be something where there's the same number, so a and root b, but the only difference is going to be one is plus and one is minus. That's called a conjugate. We know that the conjugate exists when one of the x is a very visible root. So let's write the polynomial function then. The polynomial function is going to be x minus 3, that blue x minus 3. Oh, come on, man. I think my computer wants to go to sleep on me. Okay, it's having computer problems. Let me just try that again. Okay, so x minus 3 is one of the roots. The second one was x minus 2 minus root 5. And the third one is going to be, if I move everything over to this side of the equation in black, we're going to have x minus 2, and again, that's moving over, so plus root 5. Now, we could set this equal to 0, or we could set this equal to y. We'll call this equal to y. Now, here's the only problem. We have to multiply this out and see what we get. This is a factored form of it. Let's multiply this out and see what we get. There's a trick for this part. So there's a trick for this part. And the trick is that if I add these numbers up, so if I add them up, 2 plus root 5 and 2 minus root 5, I get 4. Because the root 5 and minus root 5 cancel. That 4, when I add them up, is going to be opposite b. Always. This is a nice little trick to know. When I multiply those two numbers together, I multiply 2 plus root 5 and 2 minus root 5 together. So this is just some side work. I'm showing you an extra little trick here. Something that's going to help make your life easier. Well, let's see what we get when we multiply them. 2 plus root 5, 2 times 2, that's going to be 4. These two parts in red are going to cancel because they're the opposite signs. We have negative 2 root 5 and positive 2 root 5. And then when I multiply this purple part, root 5 times negative root 5, I get minus 5. That equals negative 1. This part is equal to c. Just c, not opposite b, just c. So when I multiply these two together, well, a is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 4, the opposite value of 4, and c is equal to negative 1. So now what I have is I have x minus 3, and this, I think we're doing one more example like this, so don't worry, we got one more shot with this. And we're going to have x squared minus 4x minus 1. And this is going to be a lot easier than multiplying it out the way you might have. So that's what happens when we multiply it out. We can multiply it out further if we want. If you want to do Punnett square, or if you want to actually multiply each part out, go for it. I got x squared minus 4x and minus 1. Then I got x and a minus 3. So here I get x cubed minus 4x squared minus x minus 3x squared plus 12x and plus 3. So my final answer is x cubed. These two yield minus 7x squared. These two, when I combine them, get plus 11x. And then I have this plus 3 here. That's what the polynomial looked like before it was factored, before I solved for it. So it's going backwards, but kind of in a tough way. And I'll type this part out in the next slide, just so that you're clear on what I actually did there, to be able to take a shortcut to go from that bubble to here. Okay, so this is the last one, right? A polynomial function of least degree that has a rational coefficients and a leading coefficient of 1, so that means nothing really, and your instructions will look like that as well. Don't worry about that part. We're looking for a polynomial, and don't ignore that part. That means x equals 4, and this part means that x is equal to 1 minus root 5. And then it also means there's one more part, the conjugate, where x is equal to 1 plus root 5. In blue, the factored form is x minus 4, going backwards, just changing the sign. In green, this part in factored form is x minus 1 plus root 5, just changing all the signs again. And in purple, that factor is x minus 1 minus root 5. That's the conjugate. And this is equal to y, and I'm going to multiply this all together. Now, when I multiply these two together, I'm going to get something x squared plus something x, and then plus something. The blue x minus 4 is still on the outside. In black, that number is going to be a and b and c. And what I can do, a is always going to be 1 here, so just don't worry about that. The b is going to be the opposite sign of when I add the roots. So let me just type that in here. C is equal to the product of the root and its conjugate. Okay, so let's go ahead and just see what it is here. Remember the roots were 1 minus root 5 and 1 plus root 5. So 1 minus root 5 was one root, 1 plus root 5 was the other root. Let's add these up, and those cancel, and we just get 2. B is the opposite sign of some of the roots, which means b equals negative 2. It's the opposite value when I add up those roots. For c, and I know I changed the pen color here, so let me switch that. For b, c rather, I don't know what color I want. I have to multiply the roots because c is equal to the product of the roots. So I'll multiply 1 minus root 5 times 1 plus root 5. And when I multiply these together, I get 1 here. The parts in red will cancel, and maybe you want to multiply that out to make sure that you know why. And then I get this last part here, which is going to be minus root 5 times root 5, which is just minus 5. And that's going to be equal to negative 4. And again, that's c. So let me fill in my values. B is negative 2. C is equal to negative 4. And again, that's going to be a much quicker way of multiplying these out than what you might do. Okay, now let's multiply all this together. So I have x minus 4. I have x squared minus 2x minus 4. And finally, let's multiply this part. So we get x cubed. And then we get minus 2x squared. And we get minus 4x. And we're going to get, let's see here, let's just go back to green, minus 4x squared. And we'll get plus 8x. And we'll finally get plus 16. So all together, we'll get x cubed minus 6x squared when I combine those two in green, plus 4x when I combine the blue, plus 16, equals y. And that's my polynomial when I multiply it all out again. Hope this helped, guys. You're ready to go on to big ideas. We'll review this on Thursday. Let me just scroll to the bottom here again in case you needed it. Good luck. Thanks for watching.